In the top left part of the map, we have our teal Terran player wishing his opponent good luck, have fun. It is Montasaurus. In the top right of the map, we have his opponent wishing his opponent gentleman's agreement. Please don't Thor rush me. GLHF. It is Experta. Montasaurus, by the way, replying with the I only Thor rush, especially on 4-player maps. To which Experta says, "Oh, oh." So I wonder if Montasaurus is being 100% truthful right now, or he's actually just going to go for something different. Honestly, either way, he's basically performed some serious mind games on his opponent at this point. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. Montasaurus says, "Man," leaves it at that. Doesn't really give us anything more to work with. FPS is dropping slowly. Uh-oh. We're having technical issues right off the bat here. That's never a good sign. Let's see here. Things are still looking fine on my end, so maybe this will be a computer issue. We'll start to see actually lag even from our perspective, watching the game, if it gets pretty bad for Montasaurus, but hopefully things will stay adequately stable. So far we can see that Experta's throwing out the scout usual time. Actually a little bit later than normal now that I think about it. A lot of Protoss players tend to put that scout out right after the pylon just so they can have a higher chance of actually getting to the base before the wall up comes up. A little bit less likely when you get the gateway down. Pretty much have to scout correctly right away. And even with that, this map's actually large enough that this probe may not get there in time. What he would see, though, is the timing of the gas, which is pretty consistent, I think, actually, with some type of factory play. Maybe if he grabs another refiner, we wouldn't be too surprised to see Banshees potentially. But the thing is, this is not actually the Reaper timing. So I eat my words. That is exactly the Reaper timing. I thought for some reason that the refinery went down at 12, but I mean, not 12, but like 14 or something. Sorry, mind is not all completely there. Anyway, Reaper Scout coming out, he could still be going into basically anything from there. So we'll go back and look at the Terran space a little bit later, honestly. Protoss has grabbed his first gas. He's also grabbed the Cybernetics Core. Now, if we don't see him pick up a second gas, it means he's doing one of two things. He's either going to be really fast expanding, or he's probably going to forgate his opponent. There's pretty much not really much else you can do, because everything else that this game actually, gives Protoss in terms of options kind of requires gas. And you can even see the probe kind of set up there for the fast expand, so it looks like that's kind of what he has in mind. This Reaper being fairly nice to let this guy just continue doing his job rather than getting his foot and getting this way. Looks like he's going to move into the mineral line fairly soon here to actually start poking away at it. Oh, a Mothership Core coming out here, going to poke a little bit at the Reaper, driving back into the corner of the base. Unfortunately, it's been walled off back here, so its ability to just kind of run around the base isn't so great. Accidentally grabbed a gas probe, sending him back. And the Nexus has gone down. So Montasaurus is pretty well aware of what's going on. Back in Montasaurus's base, we can see that he is in fact getting that factory. So he's throwing that down as well as a couple barracks. He's gathering up a lot of gas for this, actually. I'm pretty curious to see what he's going to be doing. He's either going to be going bio, grabbing a lot of upgrades. I'm not seeing a tech lab, though. So, he could be going up in the armory for Hellbats. Could be... Oh, okay, there's a tech lab. What is that on, though? It's on the factory. I hate to say this, but it looks like Montasaurus is probably going to be doing Thors again. The only reason why I say I hate to say it is because, honestly speaking, that, well, I mean, I guess he's just being 100% honest to his opponent right now. He's also getting an expansion, so this is very interesting. Is he going to go siege tanks? I'm really curious. I do not know. Meanwhile, in the middle of the map, we have a couple of Reapers dancing a little bit with the Stalker back and forth. The Stalker didn't lose any hull damage, and the Reapers haven't died, so they're going to regen their health. In other words, nothing of interest has actually happened yet. Warp Gate is just about to finish for the Protoss players, going down to the Robotech. Obviously a good choice, given what his opponent said earlier about Thors. Though it looks like, yeah, he's just going down to siege tanks instead. Okay, this was pretty cool. I like this. Like I said, I kind of like this play a little bit more, just because the Thor thing is a little bit, it's not so strong if your opponent kind of sees it coming. But in this case, I think this can be a fairly good play. Yeah, he's going, grabbing a few more gateways, getting an observer. Nothing particularly big has shown up yet. It's going to lose 1, maybe 2. Wow, actually a bunch of probes here just because the reaction is so slow. So it's going to be a total of 3. Okay, so that's pretty nice for Montasaurus. Gets in, kills a few probes, gets out, doesn't really lose anything. So tiny little chipping damage that you can do to your opponent, especially when you're behind as a Terran with the expansion, is a very good idea. He needs to do some kind of pressure here eventually, or just keep killing probes off with 2 Reapers if you can manage it, just because that economy is just very, very powerful for Experta, and it's going to give him a very strong advantage unless Montasaurus does something about that. Usually Terrans, because of how far behind this can get you, will actually get that expansion quite a bit earlier. In fact, it's not unusual to see them get it before the Protoss at times too. And there he goes, lifting it up, drop that off. It's going to go for kind of the catch-up route. We have 2 Reapers running around to the bottom side of the map. I guess they're just going to hang out here just to keep them safe for a bit. There's no real entryway into the main base except through, let me see here. Yeah, you pretty much have to go through the naturals. So this location where the army is currently hanging out is a very good defensive position for Experta, actually, just because it keeps those Reapers out. So much gas. What build is this? Says Montasaurus. Looks like he... looks like we may be looking at a little build indecision from him, unfortunately. Pig baby zealot ownage. Ah, he's referring to the fact that Experta has grabbed so much gas. Well, he has, but he hasn't populated them all yet, so they're kind of equivalent in this respect. Starport coming up. This many Marines and Siege Tank. Yeah, this is a decent defensive position. Experta probably could actually pressure this in a little bit, though. So we'll have to wait and see. 3 more gateways popping out. Total of 7 gateways on the field. +1/+1. Not really. There's Robotics Bay. Okay, so he's going up into Colossus Tech. It's actually a pretty good choice. I mean, it's not really as ideal as Immortals against Siege Tanks, but it can do quite a bit of work. Just because their extreme range can allow you to dance back and forth against the Terran army and get an advantage that way. If there's not too many tanks too, you can just kind of barrel in. Reapers moving forward, looking for an opening here. Going to damage a pylon a little bit, not really see too much. Would have been great for him if you could see a little bit more. The taxing 3 Stalkers is not at all unusual. Pretty much in any matchup, really, from a Protoss player. If you're seeing more than that, then you got to start asking questions. Is he getting blink? Is he getting other stuff like that? But 3 to 6, not too unusual. Grabbing cloak. Okay, I believe that's Ghost Cloak. In fact, yes. So this is actually a good choice for Montasaurus if, in fact, Experta goes for a more zealot-heavy force. Though we can see that with Colossus as the actual choice here. Vikings probably a little bit more preferable. But we'll have to see where this goes from here. And at some level, with both these players, it's going to come down a little bit to whose macros a little bit better, since Experta did have a head start on getting his army built up, getting that Nexus up. He's got a little bit of the macro advantage right now. Things will equalize in time as this base from Montasaurus is continuing to get built up. And notice, too, that Montasaurus is actually spending his money fairly well. Experta's doing the same, but his gas count is starting to rise. Ah, I see. Experta's going for a more probably defensive setup here. He could go for a push. He definitely has, actually, probably has what he needs to do some damage with, with that. But he is opting more for the safer, grab the expansion route, sit back, defend, be a little turtle toss, and warp in lots of zealots. So he loves the zealots. Hasn't grabbed Zealot Charge just yet, though, and Reapers have moved over and they have found the expansion attempt. Going to do a little bit of shield damage to that, and if he stays there just long enough, he's actually going to see the Colossus. Nope, doesn't, but he's going to go after this pylon that's serving as kind of a scout out there. The Colossus is going to move forward, try and eliminate these. He might actually be able to do it, and here come the beams. 1 beam, 2 beam, kills off both the Reapers. And ironically, that becomes very good scouting information for Montasaurus if he actually did pick up on that. And it looks like he's going to go for a move out here. Right now, we have only I believe, 1 or 2 Colossus out right now. Nope, it looks like only 1. 1 Colossus and a lot of Zealots. Zealots do have charge, so they can do decently well against this army. No, Montasaurus is pulling back. Okay. Actually, I don't think a push would be all that bad in this situation, just because the fast EMP will do a lot of damage against that army. Plus, he'd be able to kite it back. Not having any medevacs in the army, though, does make that pretty dangerous, so I can understand the desire to want to retreat in that situation. So this is a very, very awkward positioning as far as the third base is concerned. I actually like the fact that Experta has chosen the more pocket third. If he had picked the more far out third, like you can see Montasaurus doing here, he would actually be very, very vulnerable to drops, which is, let's be honest here, it pretty much happens in every Terran game. And look, he's already got the medevacs and everything for this. So, by the way, here comes a drop. Shouldn't be too surprised. Fairly large one at that. Let's see what he wants to take out with this. You could actually go for pieces of tech with this much damage. You don't just have to go for probes or damage the mineral line. What was that? Okay, something just died. But, oh, it was actually an observer. Interesting. Okay. Gotta love Game Heart for that. Anyway, big drop coming out in the main base here. Has killed off a few workers already. He's down to about 7. He's going to pick up the rest of his army and get out of there, having done a little bit of damage. He's just going to leave. It looks like the one Marine there takes it on the nose for the team. And it was actually a pretty decent drop from Montasaurus. Unfortunately, he's really not spending his money so great right now, so the actual damage that did was probably more or less equalized by that fact. We have a planetary fortress coming up now. I think that's at the 3rd, yes. Okay. Forces from Experta actually moving out here. The Colossus range is actually enough to allow him to harass the army. They do have above ground vision as well. Unfortunately, that's really horrible positioning for the Colossus in general, though. He needs to move those backwards. Actually, just trying to get sniped off. No. Does actually lose that, but here comes the Vikings forward. Vikings plus siege tanks going to kill off at least one Colossus there. A little bit of an even exchange. But yeah, Vikings moving forward to engage the rest of the army now. He's got a couple siege tanks actually not sieged up in this, and he's not kiting away from the army at all. Unfortunately, Montasaurus is taking really serious damage right now. There is this planetary fortress back here to back this up, not to mention 2 siege tanks, and Montasaurus says can't. Zealot power, says Experta. And I think, unfortunately, it's pretty... Oh, he's down to 2 FPS. Oh, dear. I'll have to see what they say about that. That's pretty unfortunate, really, just because it's, yeah, there's just really not a lot you can do in that situation with lag that bad. So, you know, ordinarily I would offer the players the opportunity to regame if there's lag like that, but he did choose to play through it anyway, so more or less that result will count unless Experta doesn't want it to.